which can be like OPAM repository without control other than the active one. We can have also referee. We can imagine also to have editorial pages. I don't know, like if you take Wikipedia portal Gates, Wikipedia Gates. You have a presentation of highlight on package on some libraries. We can imagine something like that if we have enough energy to do it. Or, I don't know, maybe we can ask the communication service of India to for instance, did you look at the pages for the next IHP workshop organized by Cédric Villani? It's very modern. So maybe we can try to go in this direction. So I think this has always been something I thought that there is some confusion sometimes. Is it a repository of libraries? Is it a repository of end results? Is it a repository of plugins? So I think it's worth to distinguish. And there is a question of benchmarking. So I think personally, I still missing benchmarking of open packages other than the one here. And I'm always wondering what to do when I change something to make a package compile with a new modification. What to do with this? Do I keep it on? If it's in contrib, I commit it in contrib, but if it's an open package, what do I do with it? Do I keep it personally? How to have the test continuing to work if I modify the package so that it works with the change? So how to make that it continue to work with the next changes, even though the packages is not maintained by us. So this is the question I don't know. I still don't answer.
And if we split between regression and the package index,
for instance, we test.
Then we can do whatever changes we want in the regression versions, and then say to people, if you want to integrate to use a new version, we need at least this patch.
So then we keep a version ourselves of each package.
Of the ones we want to test. Then we update them from time to time.
So you mean that all open packages or resources, we would send out long fork the versions, commit updates to there, we'll publish the pull requests, and they will be accepted whenever they feel like it. But we will test the updated version. But what if it's not a GitHub? What if it's somewhere else? Why can't that's what
we can still put our version on GitHub.
Yeah, if it's but GitHub has the fork function, which is cool because if you fork an original repo, then there is a link to the repo. So if you do that, then it's clear that this is not the official version. The official version is
over. Yeah, I agree that in the single case it's important. If they don't host it on GitHub, it's difficult.
By the way, today the Coq Open Archive report is written as a fork of because it's taking not the
But I fork from Enrico.
Yes, the point is that I removed my repo, so now you are.
I'm the one at the top.
That's the older one. So if you remove your
okay, I can remove mine.
Yeah, it's not your fault. In fact,
it's not your.
I have the impression that we're talking about several different things. One repository, the one on which you wanted to be so precise about where do you do modifications. Is it the repository where you want to have all the packages you use for testing or quality assurance?
Yes. No. I mean, we need that. We need to modify the packages when you do a change that's compatible.
I think we need to say that this is a different project than the old package index where we can push their own development.
Yes. And they can use our changes if they.
I have the impression we need something that they, like for publication, the same role as archive or
things we are willing, which we say we endorse, and we are willing to recommend them. And when I say that, I don't know who is we.
Yeah, that's exactly where
I was thinking it was you.
So I think there is a strong distinction between things that we can check automatically and things that we need people spending time in the second kind of you need to be clear on who's doing it, we have the resources. It's not clear at all.
So it might be that the Coq developer team does not take this on their shoulders. Somebody says, "Oh, I've looked at all these libraries and I'm willing to make an analysis and people will do it for group."
Maybe we should ask around for people interested, because you were saying that Xavier might be interested in looking at compiler-related stuff. Didn't you?
Yes,
Or you did?
yes. Stuff like
Yeah. But I'm sure someone like Benjamin Pierce might also be interested in that kind of effort. And maybe others in other areas. Like George might be a good one to talk about mass packages. Or...
It's more realistic to hope that some users will in that group than doing all of this ourselves.
Yeah.
To me, the only thing that I could imagine we do is to put a reputation system, a standard one online, so that people that like a thing can click and say, I like it, or write notes about things. But then the work of populating the reputation system with useful comments, it's unrealistic to believe we do it.
So maybe that's a discussion we should have also on that more.
But this
Even-
discussion already started.
Yeah, well, we didn't really. What's missing probably is a message where we, as developers, explain what is the various options that we may consider. We can ask people which one.
So I'm not sure how the cheap option of just putting stars. I mean, is it useful to use that? Do people use that really?
Many programming languages do have something like that on top of their.
You use that even if you don't use that. If you look for something, you'll find the
Sort them by popularity.
I don't understand what is the what you expect from this. Several different things one can expect from such a repository. It's for what people use it as a benchmarking platform, or is it something
No, it's for users.
community?
It's for the community.
So it would be like a showcase.
Yes, and a list of mature packages that we recommend to.
So
People
nature and that who recommends. What's nature?
Well, we need experts that can vouch for them and who we can trust.
This is another point.
Yes, so I mean, us as developers, I don't think we are.
No, but even for people that.
Yeah. Or we can go simpler and do just user sourcing of preferences. And
I'm sure we can compare library to paper. So the library lasts less than paper. The paper doesn't need to be maintained.
Mhm.
So,
I think the analogy.
so you refer the paper once and forever, then the result lets actual.
Even if it's wrong.
Yeah, but for a library, the comments that you make on the page are like comments at that dates. I mean, do you expect the people that are referring to check that the contract is maintained? Or what, who would be in charge of? watching state. It's complicated.
All about maintenance is that there is a simple strategy, which is that we need to maintain.
Sure, of course, but
And if something breaks because it's not maintained anymore, we can just remove it.
there's a difference between wrecking and maintaining quality.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's something that only a human expert
So that's
assess.
true. But with today's system, it's more likely to break and to change it before it. I mean, if someone stops maintaining the problem department, in practice today what will happen is that way before the saying it happens, it will not comply.
Well, this is exactly the example Xavier was mentioning earlier. Something which is maintained and complies.
No, but
It's
it's
no
not
more-
because we maintain it.
Sure, but suppose someone is doing that job.
Ah, okay. So you mean, okay, but this is a slightly different question. It is maintained, but it's not really properly maintained.
It's not maintained in the quality of the work and accuracy and
So it's not maintained. If it's maintained but not properly maintained, then it's not maintained.
well, it depends if you're talking about like
You might, the problem I say is that you might have a name in the maintainer field, and someone else that they very connect with the development and you fix problems, and yet
And not develop it further.
that maintainer doesn't maintain the
10 years ago, it was a very nice first take in some direction, but 10 years after, this is completely duplicated.
The one Xavier complained, it didn't even pass the first bullet in the slide. So,
No, but that's easy. That's easy
That's
to check
about-
that there's the right.
yeah, but
it
it has to be done.
But what I'm saying is-
the one even before the description was not very nice in terms of completion.
Yeah, but actually I'm more annoyed by the actual codes inside it.
But
But this will happen. I mean,
for
even if you enforce some quality requirements, my point is that quality requirements become duplicated. Nothing is done to and even maybe to remove this work.
One of the difficulties is at what time do you start to say that something that was proposed by somebody else is not has become substandard? It's a hard decision to make.
But I think what
Comments
people,
will play.
what people do today is that they never say that. And they use what I call
Yeah, isn't that something?
no. I mean reputation system.
Yeah.
I mean, when you download an app for your iPhone, there are applications that have been installed by few people and have a bad reputation. You don't install it. And equivalent, or let's say that they seem to cover the same functionality application, but they have a lot of stars, a lot of downloads.
Yeah.
So the thing that is of bad quality gets is still there. Nobody forces it to be removed or whatever, but it rots in a corner.
That's a bit unrealistic for Coq. I mean, many people is going to test this library. I don't think you have like the critical mass with the reputation system.
That's a good point. Nobody uses it.
But take how many people download the concert? 100. So Flock gets 100
I'm afraid we
stars
are
coming from.
gonna have to
The other one has never been downloaded. Zero. It's the story. I mean,
Yes, I have one very quick comment that I make. Doesn't understand why other systems like Debian, why the Debian model could work for this. No, but this is a model well has clear policies on when something becomes abandoned. When a maintainer, for instance, like maintainer disappears, what could happen? So I don't understand why this model is not based in the model that of course has models, but this will understood and tested.
So this is a very interesting remark. I'm afraid
We are
that's a good one.
I would like I would like to know if Hugo can conclude what he.
first thing is that I think we didn't talk about this kind of library. Maybe we can try to find them tomorrow. Standard.
for the standard that's very good.
But yes, can we make a summary? Yes, at least So we stay as we are for the criterion on admissibility in OPAM, or are we even stricter? I mean, at least on the syntactic side. So the consensus seems to be it's more repository. We don't do more than the current change.
That's my opinion, but
but we can perfectly document or ask a kind of Coq link that would document axioms and.
So then, if we set up a committee, the committee is taking every packages, or at the time of submission, someone is asking, I want it to be referred.
I think it has to be voluntary right now. We don't have the resources to set up a committee, except if you want to.
Yes, I think probably it's more a committee made from George, Benjamin, Pierce, Xavier, me, who can do this job. But if ever we try to do it,
that would be nice.
No, they can decide what their policy is if it's. I mean, if it's outside of, if the committee is outside of the Coq development team, they have their independence. You can just recognize that they provide a valid feedback.
Okay. So then for benchmarking, there is an independent repository which selects packages from the OPAM.
Yeah, this is the, see this as a component. It's just a technical setup.
I think the idea of showcases is good also. So I don't know, maybe it's independent, but that the Coq website can have a page.
But this page
to showcase it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I think for a long time the page on tutorials was not really maintained. And
I think
yes, maybe it's more tutorial question. Yes.
We need something to maintain more the website in terms of content. Because today we do the technical.
And for new users, it's really bad.
Yeah, but yeah, we need to. I don't think we are. Yeah, we need to have one.
Okay, so you want to discuss more about recommended style?
Yeah, we can talk a bit. The second part was on the request we made on taking the recommendation around
So I have nothing on the slide actually on that. So I had something about standard library, but we skip. So I did that because there were already one. Because I felt that for some people it was so there were regularly discussion about the pull request. Oh, you should use the data type rather than bool or things like that. Or, you should use begin end rather than parentheses. So I thought that it would be nice to start a discussion on that. So this is why I made an upgrade of what Jean-Christophe did. So, but so the discussion went offline. So I don't know if someone has to add something now.
yeah, I wanted to ask somebody if I wanted to remove all tabs because there is something in what commit, what branch I could safely do in order to avoid some unpleasant conflicts. Because it could change a lot of things.
To change what?
Where would be a good point in what branch to remove all tabs? Like, because they confuse memory. But it's not very important point, but it's also I didn't want to do it just when conflicts happen and it's done. So if we are reviewing it, before removing them, we should put in place something that checks that we don't have at the same time. Because I mean, the worst part would be you remove all that, and then you add some of them in some places, and then you have many targets just remove. Yeah, well, it's not really important.
With a brief comment on that, I think on large scale projects, a code is a bit over 200,000 lines of a camel. Usually, these kind of indentation cleanups are more pain than gain. So, because so I think it's good to do the cleanup, but maybe when you're like working on new code so incrementally, I think usually you are going to do a big diff, this messing this student, this stuff. So I think like, for instance, in Linux kernel, they are not allowed this kind of stuff anymore, because usually few games were done and much pain ensued. Like when the people, okay, this is a very different case.
Because, for instance, the only thing you mentioned so far is a very I don't think that's a good thing. So another technique would be maybe we can put in place a group that checks that in the lines that you change, I mean, you don't or even remove.
Yes.
So then you can do it on the side.
Incrementally.
You can reject the commit. You can really.
I don't know. Sorry, I meant the group checks if you remove. Not then.
Makes sense.
But the good thing with this is that the history is good. And you're going to blame.
Are you sure if you're going to make life a day or want to work hard to make
You should not be in a hurry to make a commit.
Yeah.
Depends on your hurry to collaborate.
So I don't know. I need to push the commit on the main repo.
No. Usually a bad
There should be
sign.
an exception for revert, because if you revert a commit where you remove tabs, then
Maybe you could just meet a warning, send a mail to the author and say you are a very person you're adding tabs.
yes.
I will get tons of emails.
I always put
But with the right-
white space.
I think if with the right tooling, it will be. We won't see it. It won't bother us.
Yeah, I agree, but I hope the right thing is
But this is only when you push the code repo. So in particular, you can program with tabs and commit.
No branch.
And then you need to put
Maybe it could be done just on pull requests, one check on pull request, and we rely on the fact that less and less commits are done outside of pull requests.
I'm not sure because okay, one policy we have today is that bug fixes are allowed to go. I mean, easy bug fixes are allowed to go without going through pull request. And this is typically where you change the old code.
Yes.
Whereas pull requests go often have features and
Yes.
and have new code. I think we will need to.
You just have as only.
But there's much more things that we can do.
Okay, but I had a general. I replied to the question, but I had a general feeling about it. I didn't know if I share that. It's good to have. I mean, it's very good to have clear guidelines. It's very happy to do this. But when I read the code of Coq, it's never the case that I'm confused more by the fact that we have parentheses and begin and
Sure.
tabs,
Yes.
rather than some crazy programming idiots that make us look an example of and I think this is hard to express in the guideline, much harder than saying
The indentation, yeah.
but there are some common patterns in the code base. So a typical one is you have an information somewhere and you need to propagate it to another place. And these two locations correspond to two different data structures. So normally you have the information at point A in that data structure. You would think you design the data structure B in such a way that you can propagate information in very often what happens instead is that locally in A, you forget the information, or you collapse different cases. And then when you read again B, you reconstruct them. So I think, in my understanding, so I'm not sure why we do that. I have many examples, but I think this is probably when you develop with a view standpoint that is a bit too operational. You think more about the actions the program does rather than the data structure. You are doing data and the flow of data. And I think this is very typical of some problems. So a typical example is the one Kamali always mentions in the workshop. So there is in the internalization of functions, there is this case where you can have an L-type variable or a variable, and in both cases you need a variable. And then the next phase, when it sees the variable, it has two maps. One for counter variables and one for L-type variables. And then it does a lookup in the first map, doesn't find it.
I think the reason for this kind of stuff is not necessarily operational reasoning, it's the fact that we're building on existing code. The L-tag variables were added after variables.
Yeah, but you added the constructor in the first step.
Oh, you didn't want to change the data. What would you do? You would change the data structure so that you distinguish the variables
But that's what
at the
you
terminal.
do, some of them.
At some levels, but not all.
Yeah.
Because it was built in Kubernetes.
Yeah, I'm just saying, in this case, L-tag it's a bit old. Having this allows you to do things that you can do with the I don't know L-tag enough to say intending or not, but this kind of, I think, yeah, there are many examples of this. Reconstructing information rather than just making the flow clear. And it makes it very hard to read, even when it's often you're wrong. Because it's just a harder problem to reconstruct the information. But even when it's correct, the problem is that you need to be aware of the whole system and the whole state you're in to understand what information we are building again. When the data structures make the flow clear, we can have a local group. But it's just an example. And
yeah, but I don't see the this is the problem of legacy.
no, because there is not a long term. And the reflect, I'm just saying one thing here, which is that I don't know if it's possible or not, but maybe we could think a bit about
reviewing and
having guidelines not only for style, but for pitfalls, things to do's and don't do, a bit specific to Coq and various cases. I don't know how easy it is to do.
I think in this case, it's no harm if you can simplify or better organize the code. In the way we develop, as Matthew said, sometimes we add a feature, so it's a bit experimental. So we hesitate to modify existing bases, which we know is correct, and we add something a bit on the side, not. And then it becomes mainstream, and then there is a next phase to do, which is to simplify.
Well, I'd say that before it gets mainstream, that should be cleaned up, rather than after.
So yeah, doing on the side.
Because otherwise you simply don't do it.
So it's another problem. I mean, a feature can be experimental. It's clinical. It's not incompatible. And there are many examples, and this is another common problem. So you read the code, and the only way it makes sense is if you didn't want to touch another. I mean, there are some examples that you define stuff locally, and the only way you can understand this is that you wanted to have your own local change in the file. I don't think this is a good practice. I mean, we can revert the comment on if it's really experimental in the sense it might be reverted. It's not easier. It's easier if you don't do it.
Yes, so this is a kind of policy also right that everyone there is a main function with general interests. It shouldn't be local, it should be in the C list or C array or C option.
Well, then maybe the difficulty is that it's not always easy. If you need a function, it's not always easy to know
Yes, but if they are all grouped together in a file with the meaning, it's easier to see if it exists.
The review process of the pull request can help also to spot if such function should be in a standard.
Yes, the example of TCL EMI was not at the right place.
Yeah. Probably going to know it.
Yeah, I think this review process is improving a lot because you can share knowledge. I'm sorry, I realize
But do we want to have like more stricter rules, like an OCP indent file that we should follow?
No.
No? Okay.
Why not? Why not?
Because it will mess with the history of the group. If you throw OCP indent as a code, you can forget about blaming.
No,
like
I
that.
mean,
No, but it's
for new
incremental,
code.
no?
Only for new files, but not for
No,
new code.
for
No, you cannot apply it locally to a few lines of code.
Really?
If you are changing them,
No, the full doesn't.
the tool forces you to read.
As long as you don't have
Yeah.
tags, you can do it.
Oh, okay, so that's not good.
But that,
I thought as long as the file did not have tags. That's what I tried yesterday actually. So I had many tabs in my file. This was my file, and I removed them, and then I was able to. So I didn't change the looks of it, but then I was able to just indent what I was editing and not the rest.
Oh, really?
Yes.
use it with bin or image is integrated. So in image operate and press tab, it calls OCP indent on that one.
Okay, so
Okay.
I
Can
think we
someone
agree
spell it?
that it's good on your
OCP
code.
Indent.
Your code, if you can do it,
Dash indent.
that's it. We-
I get it.
We're not sure.
Anyway, I'm not necessarily for like a set rules for annotation. But it's nice to know that we have it and that we could document how to do it like the standard way.
It's really nice to have not only a guideline but also a tool, a configuration file that you can use easily, because then you just don't need to think about it.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly what I want. Yeah.
me too.
You don't have to.
if the reindentation is done in one big commit, just one commit to skip blaming.
So can you skip it?
No, I mean, just
So I think it's.
But only if you are just something.
It would
Like
not
line, it doesn't work. For example, if you sit there and split the line, then you break your
It would not be the end of the world, but you have a cost. And so the question is what do you do?
There were an example of that. It's when Stefan removed all space return, which Git doesn't like. So it was done in one commit. So now we know that.
But this is actually happening. There are many
What?
training white spaces.
Yes, I don't. Yes,
It's a complete failure.
it's not a complete failure in the sense that I avoid adding new one, but it's a complete failure in the in making the policy stable.
Yes, but my point is that if it's not stable, then we should never do it.
Mhm.
So
Do you want someone?
I mean, as I say, it's the coding together. So if we are happy as it is, there is no problem. We can leave as it is.
I see a lot of red.
No, not anymore. Not anymore. White space.
So you for treating white spaces and indentation, since it can be checked automatically, and with the proper configuration, maybe this could be a first step to have everyone use the same configuration. And then if it proves that it is going well and in the right direction, maybe we can rediscuss doing a big cleanup of but let's not do that too eagerly.
Okay.
In the long run,
Maybe one of the takeaways, there are many cleanups to do that are not just cheap.
Yeah.
We can also do the
more time.
The contribution guidelines could be written with what we think today and improve over time. So it's good to start, even to have contributing at the root of the repository so that people know where to look.
Merci beaucoup. Le fait de faire une break now will be
Yes.
a good time. And then
Agree.
there's one smoker in the room.
Is there anybody out there?
There's 3 people. I think Jean-Marie is looking.
Yes,
I
salut,
cannot-
salut Fox. Salut Pierre-Marie.
On have a chat.
On prend des
Yeah,
pauses?
so we'll have a 15-minute break now.
On have a chat.
On prend des...
Et un deuxième
On entend, on dit qu'on entend.
Où tu vas?
Ça date de quand ce changement, enfin ce gros commit d'enlever tous les espaces?
Non, vous avez travaillé sur 2010.
Et ça date de quand le
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez
Coq est
de
sur
cette remarque de Sub 3?
Bah, ça doit être
Des augmentations
un peu avant.
Je ne rappelle pas ça.
Moi, je le laisse.
C'est le message que tu
Non, mais
as
cette
reçu.
coordination,
il y a pas de-
Ah non, c'est les antennes.
Je sais plus, ça avait été discuté, et je sais plus.
Ouais, mais de toute façon, il
C'est
faut...
mieux de ne pas avoir besoin de chercher ailleurs que dans le
On va demander à Pierre Le Touzet, c'est lui.
c'est ça la même façon de
Oui.
Il faut que ce soit quelque part.
Disons, moi, je le vois dans mon
C'est
bureau.
au début,
Je le
il y a déjà
je le
des
vois,
choses
donc, je peux intervenir.
En chapitre 0, il y a des
de ce
Ah.
style-là.
Mais une des questions, c'est aussi vis-à-vis de l'extérieur. C'est-à-dire, un nouvel arrivant, est-ce qu'ils sont peut-être plus à l'aise si un code est écrit de manière homogène.
Et puis si c'est quel...
Ah ouais,
Surtout
t'es là.
qu'un nouvel argument face à un code existant se dira pas, il n'y a pas de règles sur la manière de coder. Il se dira, il y a des règles, mais elles sont implicites et je ne sais pas où elles sont. Alors que s'il y a un fichier qui explique clairement ce que sont les règles, comme c'est de plus en plus souvent le cas sur des projets GitHub, sur GitHub,
Il y a un truc comme ça,
il n'y a pas de... Il y a rien qui est laissé
sur les
implicite.
conventions. Et on parle un peu de
Ouais, donc on
déployeur,
peut-être-
machin, tout ça. Parce que là, ça peut bien aller sur cette soumise.
Comment démarrer?
Donc ça, on a fait...
C'est la
Moi,
musique.
j'ai bien accompagné.
Il a biscuit des news là, si vous voulez les prendre.
Yes, he also be
Non,
expert.
donc il y a eu ça aussi.
Quoi, pardon, du coup?
How do I configure this indentation thing that does that? I don't want it to do that.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux faire?
Ah oui, ça,
Mais
c'est-
Gabriel attribute the comment, did you see the Gabriel comment? If you go to GitHub, in the pull request, Gabriel put the documentation, so that you can
Ah,
follow the
okay,
settings
with the
there.
settings that.
And there are the samples, so it's the best place to see. I know so I just use the default. So if you go to the Gabriel stuff, Gabriel is the expert, I'm not the expert.
Mais si ça se trouve, c'est- enfin, moi, s'il y a moyen d'appliquer un développeur,
ok,
un
après,
fichier, il suffit de... Parce qu'on arrive à faire un script.
Indent. Est-ce que tu peux le requêter
tous les fichiers.
Non, en boîte. This is one proposal for
On peut faire un seul commit. Ce commit, on apprend à le sauter, je sais pas comment
Is that the
Ouais, ça, je sais pas comment c'est facile, effectivement, puisque le problème, c'est que
last one?
effectivement, si les lignes sont bougées, etc., il faut que il ne peut pas trop se rendre compte.
Oui.
Okay, there.
Ça va quand même faire échouer.
This is the.
Mais je connais pas les API.
Ah, okay, this is the file I should download and place in my.
Il peut correctement.
Mais il travaille deux par jour.
Wow.
Mais ça lui arrive.
Also you need to make sure that the mapping to affect the peak of the
At CP, CP, and then .conf. Oh.
That's interesting. Yeah, so for me, worked well in that sense. I had to do nothing, maybe wasn't really setting my best configuration. Yeah, and just using what is by default. So I just make it, I think it's a good thing.
Vous utilisez le projecteur? Je sais pas, il y avait celui-là, on utilisait celui-là. On pourrait utiliser celui-là peut-être?
Ça, je crois pas. Non, je crois pas. Parce que justement, je suis venu pour faire un petit test.
Oui.
Petite télécommande. C'est pour ça qu'on a ramené celui-là.
Oui.
Pour avancer le fonctionne après, il s'arrête. Il démarre là.
C'est vrai, il est un petit peu bleuté.
Pourquoi il n'est pas. Non.
force comme ça. Oula, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Ah, c'est possible. Ouais, on va avoir le choix du code de l'autre. Alors, d'abord, tu peux aller dans le contexte. Il y a plein de briques. Et donc, en fait, tu as plusieurs codes. Celle qui suit le train, celle qui suit le passage, etc. Oui, oui, voilà. Ça me coûte. C'est bon. Je mange plus encore bon. Et voilà, alors, déjà, en fait, j'ai. Non, en fait, c'est pas ça. Non, désolé. Ça, c'est en fait, c'était. Désolé. C'est ensuite, c'est paramètres.
Si vous voulez l'utiliser, normalement il fonctionne. Mais l'autre, celui-là, c'est pour ça qu'on l'a ramassé. Il a parlé quoi.
Mais en fait, on pourrait le reculer ou pas?
Parce que c'est ça, c'est le maximum.
Ah, c'est maximum.
Ouais, c'est le maximum parce qu'il est petit. Donc, après, vous regardez au fur et à mesure.
Non, parce que là, ça faisait un petit peu.
Bah,
Un peu petit, mais.
la petite, parce qu'il est au max.
D'accord, il
Pour
est au
rien
max.
faire. Ah oui, c'est ça. C'est ça le truc.
Ok.
Ouais, oui, j'en ai.
S'il y a des prévus. Non, c'est pas un équilibre.
C'est quoi l'option pour sauter l'espace en bit en tête?
Apparemment, c'est moins W.
Moins
Je ne
W.
sais pas si c'est du. Alors, il y a aussi un moins M qui apparemment fait qu'il essaie de prendre en compte les lignes qui ont été bougées ou copiées, ce genre de choses.
Moins.
M aussi. Et oui, c'est ça, c'est moins W.
Et c'est une option de quel bit? De quel
De Git blend.
C'est bizarre. On a plus d'options que bit en tête.
Je sais pas ce que c'est censé faire.
C'est censé être un synonyme pour problème.
Ah bon? Ah bah manifestement, ça l'est pas.
Ah non, the only difference between these commands is that they use slightly different output format.
Ils ont peut-être été programmés indépendamment.
Après, ils ont peut-être rajouté des fonctionnalités à Git blend au fur et à mesure et ils n'ont pas mis à jour ce commentaire.
Non, je trouve que annotate c'est plus sympathique que blend.
Ah oui.
Au niveau du nom.
Oui, effectivement. Oui, ça ne dénote pas le même objectif. C'est qui qu'on doit blâmer pour ça? En gros, il faut revenir dans 2 ou 3 semaines.
Donc, qu'est-ce qui se passe là?
Oui, ça devrait reprendre, c'est ça? Ben, il faut aller les chercher. On en reparlera.
Pierre arrive.
Mais je sais pas si c'est pas.
Il est éteint là, non?
Ils sont fuckés. Bah, nous, on va le découvrir un petit peu.
On va prendre le micro. All right. Again. So Emilio is going to talk about how you pronounce it, sir, IPA?
Therapy.
Therapy.
In Spanish,
Ah,
this is,
therapy, okay.
well, this is a terrible answer. It's not the proper thing in any way.
It means something?
It means serialization based API.
Oh, therapy.
So,
good,
but,
yeah.
therapy itself is the word related?
It's a fundraiser.
No.
Therapy. This is what I need, actually.
Coq therapy. Yeah, this is Coq therapy. Yeah, so, well, this is really, in fact, I mean, this stuff has been quite chaotic. So, but I mean, it works. So it works, and people is using it. So I think it could be interesting for developers to know a bit about this project. Okay. What I have here, sorry, because my screen is much smaller now. Here it is, okay. Yeah, so, okay, so the overview, so really, well, you know, most of you know, we have this Coq thing, so actually for doing this Coq, it was necessary to, okay, I can just be in camera. It was necessary to implement a new top level because of the new one is based on the Unix assumptions, and you have a totally different model like when running a browser. So the first motivation was the verification of the JSCOC common protocol. For instance, like when you need to, we had this discussion in the first Coq Working Group. Actually, I didn't want to have a separate protocol, but to have the ML API. This is a perfectly valid protocol. So then I was thinking for many times how to do the verification in a way that is easy, and is done by this serialization technology. And then also after Clement, Pete Claudel, you know him, complained about many things. Then I thought, okay, this can be useful for them because in particular can be useful for them and can solve some of the issues. And I think this holds true even today. And then the third motivation was also like, of course, like current protocol and APIs, they are not enough for what we want to do with Coq. So these are like the three motivations. So then one afternoon I decided to start coding this thing. Okay, and was a bit of a bet because actually is what not clear. Well, I can show you, but it's actually serializing the whole of Coq. So it's again a large project that you never know whether the PPX is going to go full, go mass or work, and it worked. And yeah, so more or less, so then the history is the first generation of JSCOC has ML support. Now the second generation is using a simpler API, which is called the JSCOC API. It's very, very compact, and this provides a full API using the same technology. This gives asynchronous support, it gives full document editing, many things. So right now they're separated in the third generation, which is going to happen, I say after Christmas. The third generation is going to merge with Therapy. So in fact, JSCOC is going to stop shipping any code, and then Therapy will be the backend, the unified backend, and this is can be installed with Papa and this stuff, right? And something which is important here is a very disciplined API. So in fact, it has only 2 commands with several options, and it's a very disciplined API, and also has to make things very easy for the users. So when I'm in JSCOC, I want to be very stupid. In JSCOC, for instance, I just want to follow to Coq, the update notifications, all this stuff. So in this sense, and also it's very disciplined, it's very low complexity, and should solve all the problems for me. Okay, this API.
When you say user, you mean developer?
User, I mean people using. I mean because this cannot actually this can has many uses. So you can I love BOB. I mean developer. Developer. Okay, it's usually for people talking to Coq. But let's say user friendly. Imagine you want to talk to Coq. Okay, well I didn't mention this is of course target to a program talking to Coq. So the format will be not for humans. This is meant for programs, for Java programs, or whatever you want to talk to Coq. So this is the goal of this. So it's very disciplined in the sense it's very towards for machine. But for anybody talking to Coq, this will be easy. And for instance, Clement in one afternoon, he could code a new Emacs mode for Coq. I don't know, he showed the thing with asynchronous support. We had to implement, he gave many useful feedback. We had to change the protocol a bit. But indeed, most of the problems got solved for them. But this is one of the goals. So I mean, if the user is having a problem, then I go and fix the tool. Then the tool is work. This is the philosophy here. And UI friendly, I mean, this is designed more for people doing ideas, this stuff, right?
And for instance, it's not so bad because I have a version of Coq ID using this, and it's much simpler. The code, well, also there are many other cleanups not related, but which is, by the way, it's another topic whether Coq ID should be in Coq or not. Peacock also, Valentin has been using it and he has migrated fully and it's working quite well for them. At least he doesn't worry about the Coq part. We have again many problems with parsing, just Coq is using it. And I don't know, Proof General is not, but actually the prototype we did was okay. And also, I think some other people for, well, I see the components, but there are some other applications in the way. And yes, and the main idea is just export MLI player automatically. No new protocol. And right now we support sets. We have basically the whole of code. Code can be serialized to sets. We'll see a demonstration. It's funny, for instance, to follow how internalization goes and this stuff. You can really see the thing. And the good thing is this is automatically, so you don't need to code a printer. You are really seeing what the ML things are, and then you discover many funny things. And then also we have less support for JSON, but this is a matter. In fact, I had to rewrite the whole serialization library because I discovered even a better method. Because right now you have to declare every type you're serializing. Okay, it's just one line for every data type, but this is still something, right? And yes, and then the command is just the protocol is just a small DSL and a small interpreter, and the whole protocol, for instance, is 159 lines. So you can see it. This is something. So for instance, if you want to use this, you can go to therapy, and then usually you'll see, well, in fact, the protocol maybe is 80 lines. So you see, for instance, you have this type. Oh, well, I can increase the font size. For instance, this is the Coq object type. This is just a wrapper for things. So you need to serialize something. Okay, so this is the tag. You get that tag. So whenever you are getting a stream, whenever you query, you can create tactics, expressions, calls. Of course, this is automatically locations. This is the ST. This is the famous annotation that we have so many discussions with Pierre-Marie. So finally, well, I know nobody could see the output of this. Finally, I think unless I'm proven wrong by some person, I think I'm the first person to see the output of this rich annotation, which embeds. Because of course the problem is this PP annotation thing is embedding the whole of Coq inside. So you need a printer or you need a serializer for all the data structures. So this took a lot of effort. This was a good test. And global reference is okay. Anything you could see in implicit arguments, for instance, this is for people. I don't understand what it means, the information we get, but this is a different problem.
And if one adds a new data type to Coq, he also has to add an entry to this data type.
Yeah, but this is one line, yes. Yes, I don't want this dynamic stuff. I have enough with generic arguments now. Dealing, this is the biggest pain dealing with generic arguments here. So here, this is very disciplined. What I mean, yes, I mean. Also, the model, I will talk about the model of release, but that's all. And this is, for instance, the printing format. For instance, this is using the serializer. This is using the Coq printing. This is the notation with PP. Also, this is extensible, but the extensibility here is to just submit a pull request and a annotate. Okay, so. And well, the print options, for instance, you have several printing options. This, of course, you see there are some defaults. This is used by the serializers, so it's a bit more friendly. Then you have, okay, typical PP printing. And then, of course, okay, and this is, well, this is, by the way, this is one, I talk in the, this is one exception. We need to overcome some problems with Coq error handling. And then, for instance, this is the answers. So this is, okay, so the answers, this is of the control protocol. So for instance, add, cancel, edit, this is deprecated, an object list. So basically you can get an exception, a cancel, Coq is telling you cancel, something that the parsing was successful, and a list of functions. This is like basically the things you need to handle. And well, there are queries are in development. So for queries, you can specify the state ID, you can specify the printing options, limit, some predicates, the root, okay, which is also deprecated, but this for compatibility. And now here you have some queries. This is going to be writing, but for instance, you can query options, search, goals, e-goals, DST, types, names, tactics, locating, splitting, some parsing, notations, profile data. This is just basically you want a new object, you just add a new data type here, and then everything is taken care for you, and you need to add an entry in the interpreter, which is calling the corresponding ML function. And this is the control, okay? So this is the control protocol. Mainly is the yes Coq only uses add, these are compatibility. I should document that here. Add and cancel and observe. This is the only thing used. And then you have set options, but this is the the setup terms, but this is still a bit experimental and adding libraries. Okay, this is for Notepad. This should really go in an update in an update API. And well, this is the control, help, no, query pause, print, the release control and query what you use. Okay, and a little more. That's it. Well, for instance, for feedback, you just do answer. Okay, so the answer can be a feedback too. So an answer of the protocol or an asynchronous feedback, and that's it. So it's quite easy to use, and this is automatically we'll see in a moment. This is automatically derived. And well, the components we have shared list is this is just a shell serializing all the data types. So this is just a very long list of derived PPX for all the data types. Okay, it's a bit boring, and well, also some ad hoc marshalling over types that cannot be serialized because of the IP design and of the generic arguments. This is also a pain. Setup itself is this protocol and the interpreter. The interpreter is pretty light, maybe it's 300 lines. Then Sertop is a new top level. No, Sertop is the Serapi top level, so this is just a total almost empty shell with only this a readable loop is maybe 20 lines, setting up terms and this stuff. And also an interesting thing is also this is the same implementation for JavaScript. So this is one of the goals. This is totally unified. Whether you want to compile to Camel or JavaScript, this is exactly the same code. So in fact, you can try Serapi online, and there is a link, and you can try some examples, which is very useful. And then Sercomp, which is a new compiler, a new Coq C, and it's for code analysis and this stuff. So actually, this is still much in development. And there is also an experimental thing which is Jupyter, which is like IPython backend for Coq. This is also using some APIs. These are the several components and are fairly independent. Yes, Sertop is really is very simple thing, and the nice thing is it works well for JavaScript and it's pretty okay.
So you went very fast. I didn't understand, but basically, Sertop is something we use to just use Coq.
The Sertop is
we have to be speaking the language of therapy.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. In fact, we're gonna say I think that's better.
No, but
so this is Sertop. Okay, let me increase the. Okay, so maybe down here. So this is Sertop. Here say where the prelude is. Okay, and bring human. Normally you don't put this. And now, for instance, you see I open and then it's already like okay feedback. And I say the ID state. This is the standard protocol is ready. And for instance, we can in fact, for instance, do for instance the sample of Paul in the back. For instance, we could say at call true. And then, for instance, he was complaining about, for instance, this problem. Like if you try to do, okay. So here we work around. This is okay. This is for the next step. But you see, for instance, here we get an such state. So here we want to add because we want to add an unknown system state. But then, for instance, like let's see a better demonstration. So, for instance, okay, this is maybe it's going to be different now. Okay, let me just start from scratch. So okay, here for instance you see something we support is okay, we support adding a whole document. You see require import container code for all, so you can really send a whole document if you want. Here you see we're getting, unfortunately this is a bug, we're getting the feedback about these things before we know this is a problem of Coq. We could work around it, but we are thinking what happens. Then this is the parsing notification, and this is giving you in fact the parsing information where it was split. Here, this is already Coq. There was a pull request, but this is a workaround we have to do. And then, for instance, we have this, and then we are going to observe. So I see.
I don't. The lines that are between that are on top, they went too fast.
Sorry. Yeah. So
the two lines that are on top. The feedback line.
Yeah, this is produced by
Coq. That Coq changed state.
Yeah, this is Coq is telling you indeed. This is telling you it has processed.
So that says that it processed 3 commands.
Yeah.
And these are information about the text that was parsed.
Yeah, so this is
useful for the user interface.
Yeah, indeed, because for instance, you can send a whole document, and then Coq will tell you where the sentence is split.
Yeah.
Because as you know, it's not decidable actually.
Yeah. Okay.
How to split a Coq document because of notation, so you have to rely on Coq. So indeed here you can send a document and then you get this added. This is giving you the thing It can be a parsing error. Okay, it's not perfect yet in my opinion, but it's okay. Well, and you see this is giving the information position. So
what is answer 0? The 0 stands for what?
The 0 stands for every command here has a tag. If you don't put a tag, so you can do, for instance,
Is an answer to question 0 or?
Yeah, so if you don't put anything, then internally that's a number, but you can do like this, you see. So for instance, you can do command 1, I can have a tag here, it's optional. Control 1, then the answers are tagged by, it's like the root. Yeah, this is for IDs when they send many queries, this is the way to identify. Yeah, so 0, it means, this is usually queries always tag user interface is always tag this, okay? Yeah, I don't tag because it's like a pain. So if you don't put a tag, then it has a reference with a number and increases the number. Okay, so if I don't.
What's the point of putting? Sorry, I'm going technical anyway.
Yeah, now you see street.
What is the new tip thing that you have at the end in the answer? It seems weird that you send new tips all the time.
Tip, sorry?
Is the last argument of the answer STM added? And on top of the screen, the first line. The first.
No, this is what STM returns.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I don't know. I just relay what STM returns.
The point is that you made one request that actually you compile the transparency into 3, and then you're giving the 3 answers.
Yeah.
And it's a bit confusing to me because the STM, I mean, it makes sense to say new tip to one of the questions. One of the 3 questions you compile your original question into.
Oh well, I mean that's a good point, and in fact, actually, but unfortunately, because the pull request was not accepted, this is not possible to do now, because of course we have to do 3 separate ads. Because if you remember, I tried to really.
Okay, so the idea is that if you get a multi-thing ad, you get the answer.
Yeah, then I will get that, but
then you will get a single answer, right?
Yeah.
With a list of STM ads.
Yeah, we'll get a list. Yeah, in fact, this is a pull request implementing that, but unfortunately, because got conflict with the error location IP and the parsing, and machine assigned that back to me. Okay, this is a technical thing.
When you say not accepted, it's not
No, but there is a design problem there. We need to talk about there is a design problem. So
you withdrew.
No, it's not withdrew, but it's in conflict with another pull request with what's accepted. Because now the STM you cannot really do any streaming parsing because it has incorporated stream parsing in itself. So now we have another parser, one more parser in code, which is in the STM, which is parsing for indentation. And this parsing only works on strings. So unfortunately, then it means that the type of adding is constrained to be a string. And the way it works, yeah, it's technical. No, let's not worry about that now. Okay. It says will be solved for 8.7. This is just a minor thing. This is not a problem like for anybody because in a sense also this new tip thing I don't know. This is just relaying what Coq does. So in this sense it's not a therapy concern. But for instance, okay, but we can carry for goals, for instance. This is more interesting. So in fact, for instance, we can query, for instance, okay, we can query for goals and know that in this query we can leave the options empty. Like here we say pp format a string, and then you get the typical Coq string and a string. You get the typical goal printing. But then fun starts if you want, for instance, to well, in this case, I think it's okay. Well, I will specify pp format.
Query is query at the tip.
Sorry?
Query is implicitly at the tip.
Well, if you don't put it, it's implicitly at the get current state. But you can specify. So in fact.
Okay, because I thought you wanted to get rid of this state current tip, the tip.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just for a bit for convenience. Like usually, for instance, this Coq always specifies because, for instance, for goals, when you hover over a sentence, it will show you like the goal. Okay, and so it always does. So in practice, like for matching interaction, it will always specify the state ID. For instance, we can try like serialization, and then you get okay. This is the camel thing, and well, this is a bit heavyweight. Okay. Because application concepts, for instance, you can, if you have like the question, this is like the first step. Imagine you want to have the question: is this starting by an application? Then you can answer this, and this is just a serialization of const. Well, of the whole proof structure, so you get background goals. There are many choices here. Okay, and in this case, you see, so you get okay, logic key, you can see all the internal things. Sometimes they are not very pretty. For instance, you can You can query for this is the cons. This is, for instance, the concept. This is the parsing thing. You see here, I have a patch for that. You see here a bit unfortunate effect of the externalization. That actually is adding has to add dummy locations all over the way. So I have a solution for the dummy location problem and a solution proposal, which improves the situation a bit because all these locations are bogus. But this is a big patch, and it's a big patch because it's actually, I call the patch a more principles handling of locations, but it's a big patch. But here you see, okay, for instance, here you have the notation, this is stuff. And then, of course, then you can go and see, for instance, and then the good experiment is that this discussion.
If the location is on the me,
No, it's lost because, okay, there is a big graph. Absolutely.
if the locations aren't to me, where do they come? Where do they refer to? To the text that is produced.
So,
You said you're going to remove the fact that
Always dummy in externalization.
no, yeah, so location also because of activity and many things. So the way is something called commands. So there are many things. No, so here you will have none. So the first step for me is making location optional. Okay. So in this case, you will have no location. So location, instead of using a dummy location, I think it's a good idea. I don't know. I submit a pull request soon. I think it's a good idea to make explicitly like locations can be optional because there are many objects like here that they don't really carry a notation. So you have a lot of its dummy, and this is a bit of source of so it's I'm not clear on that. But yeah, okay, you can see here this long path a term goes from parsing back to a cons, and then it has to undo it. It's a very painful path like for the term, right? Like a bit what Masi was saying. So you can really follow here if you want. So this is as a debug tool is quite useful because actually you get what there is. As this is automatic derived from the camel data type, you really get the internal thing. So it's a debugging tool is interesting. And then there is this super crazy rich format that is actually crazy. And then of course I was able to see and you see this annotation thing. And this is super crazy, and unfortunately it doesn't work for me. So there is a patch removing it. That it's a pull request which has inspired quite a lot of discussion, not in good terms, or even sometimes. So yeah, I was called a troll, but then I have my proof I'm not a troll because this doesn't work. Okay, we don't have time to go over this. Okay, you have these annotations, you have like a path. So in fact, I did this with Clement when Clement was visiting Paris, and we were having a look. And the point is, the idea here, the idea is right. So the idea they had with this implementation is the right idea, but the implementation, I mean, is not usable for now. Because for instance, okay, you can see, so okay, you see this printing thing is annotated. You see this printing thing is annotated with the whole concept expression. So I mean, really is, and if you go down, for instance, here, this is temp parsing. You get temp parsing here. These positions really don't make sense. All the locations here also you see they are dummy. So for instance, this data type is in a location, but actually never you will get from this annotation a useful location. So the location is useless now. Okay, so but okay, the bug was very interesting because the spirit of this system is a good. The spirit of this is something good.
So the spirit is to be able to find structure in the text.
Yeah, to enrich the pretty printing with many rich things. So and also like there's another things like for instance when you click into a printing, you want to locate it back to the pattern and this stuff. So the idea is right, but implementation, you see for instance the way it's implemented, I disagree. I don't know. At least we couldn't. I cannot figure out a way to use this. Okay, so at least you can see it now. Okay, you see a concept is annotation. So I feel personally I will take a different choice, but at least. And you see the things you require, for instance, you see to print this, you need to be able to print all the parts and all the data structures, all the tactics, everything. So it's otherwise, of course, the notations they are like true terms. So I mean, so this is my point of view. Okay. So yeah, why it's relevant? I think we covered this. I think it's a useful debugging exploration tool, and also it's interesting because it stresses many parts. So the moment somebody destroys API compatibility, then it's a API you're going to see because it's going to complain and it's modularized more or less like it's for every MLI file that is a corresponding MLI file with their serialization. So this is stresses many part API stability. And after following this, it seems like sometimes many epi changes that happen. I think it's not worth giving concrete examples, but I've seen a lot of, for me, many things feels improvised. Like you have, for instance, an APA for something, and then suddenly there is like a use case, it's changed to a total different semantics. Then, of course, for me, it's okay. Just another commit, I track it, 26. But it feels a bit of improvisation. Sometimes, like this development, at least the parsers interacts, it feels like many changes out, and sometimes I get the feeling like, really, okay, I have this problem, I do the change, but so it feels a bit. I think there is many work to do here, in my humble opinion. And also, like another relevance is also very easy to. It's going to be independent release schedule. I want the users to get improvements the day after they are done. So with OPAM, and for instance, so this makes a good test bed for new ideas. For instance, in printing in this stuff, with ideas you don't need to touch code. You can just contain them down. And okay, and yet to conclude, okay, well, the control protocol is different. One STM is an evolution. Well, all of this is an evolution of the STM. It's different. And really, the main point is really geared toward full document parsing and a lot of feedback. But this is a new document model with attack cancel and also has different semantics in the error handling and transactional semantics. Especially the problem is it's very painful in the user side to prevent the user making changes to block the user. So the main problem we solve here is never the user is forbidden. There is never a window. The goal of this protocol is there is never a window where the user cannot edit the text. And also, it was a bit different. It's a bit technical. It has to maintain right now a different notion of document. And then the query protocol is, as you see, it's basically systematic output filtering, mostly very fast. And mainly, for instance, you can query for many things. In fact, okay, we can maybe it's good to see you, so we can do a. Okay, I think I have a few ones here. Okay. Oh, for instance, you can query for this. You see, for instance, you can query for annotation. Well, and here you get all the things. Okay, so for instance, if you do query and parsing, and this is the annotation, then you get them parsing, and I mean this can be a bit useful for implementing like an HTML printing. From this is you can write another interpreter. You can query for options. So for instance, like. Okay, I think this is the last query. I think, yeah. So for instance, look, this is if you query for something that there is filtering and also the filtering. So here querying for actions, you get everything. And if you want, you can specify, okay, this is like the low-level representation, okay? And you can query for tactics in the scope. You can query for many things. And for instance, you can do here PP again, and then PP format, and then you can say, I think that's good. Then for instance, well, then you get the options in a different format. Okay, it's just an example. And well, and that's all. So I think most of the future work here, apart from packaging it properly, in my opinion, it is on STM work. Well, at least from how we want to interact and the way it has interacted now, I think it needs some STM semantics, for instance, for have not hacky full document parsing and this stuff. Then also there is also this imperative code in parsing in PP commands is really creates many problems because they are not reentrant and you have to keep track of the state. Well, you can even see, for instance, in ML how is or in print is located. And the worst thing is this is not fully correct. Okay, but this is another discussion. In the sense, there are cases that are not handled. So then, if at least work it for all the cases like the comment preservation, but there are many cases, for instance, if a comment is between a for all and the binder, it cannot work. And then removing this will be very important because this duplication of paths is a bit written, and then the printing work, and also this code for code analysis. This is the lines, and I don't know. That's all. So.
I mean, there is something that it looks scary to me. So I mean, you did many things, and so one thing is that if you use this stuff as a protocol for user interface, you are exposing so many internals of code.
If you want,
even the opaque data types. I mean, the terms you printed, the const, and I mean, the pretty printer goes inside opaque data type. So essentially, this API is as a sort of you are mixing two things. one thing is that it's good to be able to serialize any data so that the user interface can access it without changing the protocol and changing whatever. That's good. But on the other side, if we just change something that is very hidden behind our APIs, then the user interface breaks.
No, I disagree, because actually you as the user interface, you go as far as you want. If you don't want to, you request what format you want the data in. So if you don't want to mess with internal representation, then just request the data in a string format. This is your choice. The choice is optional, not mandatory. If you need a use case that you want to look deeper, you can look deeper. If you don't, then you can just request, for instance, for printing goals. You can print goals, and of course, all the user interfaces now, they are not using the low-level things. So
yes,
this is
but you say I mean, it's good that the user interface can access the notation stuff, for example, so that they can present notation differently. Then I change a bit in the internal representation of the notation data type, and it breaks.
Oh, well, of course. Yeah, that's life. But
that's something that typically what I call protocols take into account. They expose what should be exposed and not too much.
Yeah, I don't believe on that then, because then actually, then if you're creating yet another layer, okay, because then, okay, so you have the internal representation and a public representation. So you're creating, so okay, well, the philosophy here is the ML API. So if you break a plugin, then you're going to break a user interface.
Maybe the problem is that you don't have a clean ML.
Yeah, of course, if you change the ML, the representation
of goes behind opaque data types.
No, only for conster. It's only the only one. Yeah, it's the only one actually. Yeah, and it goes using, it doesn't go beyond, by the way. It uses the accessors, so it has a
lock is an opaque data type.
What, which one?
Lock.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's
not anymore.
What does it mean?
Yeah, okay.
Anymore.
Lock is not.
Well, okay.
And
Yeah. This is in fact this is just one slide. So in fact, Paul did all my work. So I'm thankful to him. Like for instance, this is an example. So actually, this is a critical issue, and in my opinion, I will think something has to be done, because actually, error handling in Coq is very difficult to use for people like me or for people like Paul. A good example is this bug, 5101. So I think this summarizes well what the situation is. Where's my browser? The other browser. Okay. It's here. So for instance, okay, this was submit yesterday, you see, so I didn't pay him to submit it. But for instance, here you say, well, this is a bit harder to read, but this is just a link. So for instance, depending what you do, okay, so maybe the summary is here. So for instance, here you're doing two things that, by the way, are necessary for the IDs to do. It is a different thing. In fact, we already support them. In Sagapi, this is necessary, otherwise you cannot really, you have race conditions. You need to, so Coq need to, sometimes the ID will send a request to Coq that is not valid and just has to ignore it. Okay, for instance, if a state. So for instance, if you use a state ID of 42, okay, then we'll exit. So look at this. You sent, okay, so this is the typical, at least it's a rapid situation is better because I took a lot of precautions against it. So it's never supposed to, it has a different error handling and it's much more robust. So for instance, okay, the ID needs to do this. Soon as submit, this is impossible. Has to submit, at least in the view of the protocol. So for instance, one possible result is that Coq exit with a status code of 1. Just exit. So you suddenly Coq has died. You have no other information. But instead, if you say 0, then you get a file value indicating an anomaly. With a state ID of 0 that of course cannot be handled in the usual way because actually you cannot set it at 0. So yeah, so then it's then it cannot be resynced in the usual way. This is just an example, but the situation is like this. So I will try to be brief, but yeah, for instance, like querying for notations. A good example is for notations in the slides. So yes, like with the Sagapi, it's easy to see. Sometimes you query for notations, sometimes you get an anomaly, sometimes you get an exception, sometimes Coq will die, sometimes you get a serve false. Okay, so really, and this is at least from the ID's point of view, this is a critical issue. There is no documentation, there is not clear, there are no problems, and of course, so the problem is what to do. Because I think, like now, in fact, now I'm convinced it's impossible to have a proof general that can talk to 8.5, 8.6. This is not possible. Well, if it's as well, writing to writing to different handles, of course. So I think, I don't know, we have, of course, there is much more thing to do, but I think it's a critical issue to release it coincides with a clear guidelines, at least with a document stating what you're supposed to do. For instance, you never know what to expect. There's no documentation, and it's not clear in particular what you're supposed to recover. So yeah, I mean, there are some conventions, but when you start, like Paul has shown, when you start to implement different semantics, more asynchronous semantics, then you don't know. It's very non-uniform, and the problem here is there is no guide. So if there is no guide, there's no reference to say, okay, this is a normal behavior, should be behaved in this way. And yeah, I mean, my very humble opinion is a serious issue. So, okay, it's a serious issue. Not necessarily. For instance, you will get an anomaly if you query for an non-existing notation. Or for instance, Paul showed an anomaly, and this is not that critical. So this is just wrong.
To me, these are simple bugs.
It's clear that it's an anomaly, but it's not clear. It's not function that's included in the lifetime.
No, but the problem is there is no reference and there is no specification of what is supposed to happen. Then it's impossible to really determine if you are taking the right thing.
I mean, I guess that's true, but if I didn't look at the bug yet, but what you're sending, this 42, is an opaque data type in the mail code. The only way that you can get one is because I give you. I give you the state ID, and internally it's an integer, and it is serialized as an integer. But if you send, I mean, you're breaking the abstraction barrier.
No, you're not breaking. It's an
state ID is opaque. State ID is opaque.
What do you mean opaque?
It's an opaque data type, so the only way to get it is that I give it to you.
Yeah, okay, sure.
I'm sorry, but
actually, okay, this is very
it's like
technical.
using OBJNet.
Actually, then it's impossible to implement it's impossible to use the XML protocol to implement an IDE.
I'm happy to make it robust, but what the bug comes from is that there is an invariant that is expressed as a type invariant.
No, but the invariant is wrong. So okay, we can discuss this afternoon, but this is where the bug I promise you is wrong, because actually can happen. You have a race condition. If you want to go over that, actually
the exit one is just that you're using a number that has never been produced by the state ID module that keeps track of all the state IDs that you ever generated.
Yeah,
so it's an invariant that is written in there, and it is preserved by
but actually, that state could be. What do you mean by an invariant? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand the invariant. I don't understand this invariant. Sorry, like I send in. It's plausible that an ID sends an invalid thing by many reasons. I don't understand the invariant. If I send some invalid input, then the Coq exit. I don't understand this invariant.
No. But if as Enrico said, the type is abstract, you are not supposed as a keygen to create a new value. That's breaking.
No, but sorry, but then
they shouldn't exit.
Then this opaque.
Okay,
this
should
opaque.
Give you a
Well,
nice error.
I can send you the discussion we had with Clement because it's public. First, this is wrong that this is an opaque data type. Because no, this is how IDEs work. Okay, you can think how IDEs, people with a lot of experience implementing IDEs work, they don't want it to be. They want to set themselves because it's a pain for them to wait for an answer with the ID. They want to tell to Coq, this is what they told me. I have no clue because I have very little experience. But first, the opaque nature is a mistake. This is what you see this. Why they're violating them? Because they don't want this. And in fact, both Valentin and both everybody, they want to set, as it's possible now, they want to set the thing because they don't want to wait.
But it's going to be strange that it's opaque because as an interface, you might have at least to compare.
Yes, you can provide equality.
Gives you the compare function.
Gives you the how did you do the XML protocol? Sorry, how did you do in the XML protocol?
There is a way to serialize the data to XML and read it back. Of course, the user interface can hack around.
No, I mean, how did you call the compare function in the XML protocol? You can
serialization is the same.
Anyways, bugs also IDs, but IDs also have bugs. Yeah, no, it's just. Anyways, but we should try. In my opinion, we should try to write. We should try to write a document.
You cannot make opacity. I mean, it's two languages within the middle. A serialization thing, it's not opaque as in a.
Yeah,
the invariant is clear in the piece of code, and you're breaking it. So I should be nice.
No, but the invariant is wrong. the invariant is wrong first. This is a bug because first, and also, but you cannot behave like that because also IDEs have bugs. So you cannot, so you imagine you're an IDE developer. In fact, if you have like a bug in your IDE, then the whole thing goes away. So I mean, sorry. But there is an issue. So one issue is of course like this opaqueness. IDE developers, they don't want that, and this is because they have this bug because they don't want it. Otherwise, why Paul sent that? I'm sure Paul didn't start like doing differential testing in the protocol. This is a real use case for him that happened.
I agree that it's a bug to bail out brutally, as they probably do, but it's a result of completely breaking all the invariants that are possible.
No, so well, but then in that sense we disagree because for us it's a use case. For us, it's a use case. In Sagapi has an exception for that, no such state. For us, given the synchronicity, it's a use case to actually sometimes the IDE can send non-state ID that are not existent, are not valid. So
no. This
is in your world. In our world, it works different because otherwise we have a lot of pain. Then we have to implement 1,000 more lines of code in the UI, and we don't want to do that. We want to have a simpler model.
Now, what should I do when I get a state ID that makes no sense? Give a nice error.
Oh, yeah, I get an exception.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. I ignore it and give an exception.
We agree on that, but it's a mistake on the side of the user interface.
No, it's not. The user interface people with experience, they have requested that for me. Why they want to do it?
No, I mean, there are two. A state ID can be never existing or outdated. If you send me an outdated, today I think I give you an error, a decent one. If you give me a non-existent one, I bail out. I should give you a better error instead of bailing out. Yeah, but in one case, it's reasonable that you are out of sync and you send me an outdated one, but a never existing one.
I have a list of 10 examples anyway, so we're just focusing on this, which by the way, and this is the the design of protocol, and then clearly there is a disagreement in my point of view of what the people writing the user interface want and what the XML protocol is providing, because they want, at least if I understood them correctly, they want totally different design. Not total, but a bit, okay, total, no, a bit different. For instance, they want to set themselves the state ID so they don't have to wait for Coq to know what is the state ID. This is very reasonable, and they can do that in the API now, by the way. Yeah, okay, so that's it. But I say that the error handling in general, I can give you 10 more examples, both in the protocol, in ML plugins, and in this stuff. So let's forget about this particular issue. This is just an example. Okay, that you put 0, you exit, you put 42, you get an anomaly. Okay. So really, it's not working. In my opinion, this is not working, and I don't know how to fix it. So, but it has to be fixed.
In some specific cases, it's possible to change code, so that it's impossible to break invariants. In some cases, you are able to redefine data structure so that it's impossible to create nonsensical thing. So in some cases, it's ideally, animals can be ideally it's not as very kind to nonsensical activity.
Yes,
But that's what they want.
so this should be written, for instance. But imagine,
They're going in circles.
But I think at least it should be written, for instance, like I have the basis for a document like that. It should be written like, imagine you get a Stack Overflow in the ML side. Who will you recover? What are you supposed to do? Imagine you get, I don't know, you get an anomaly. What are you supposed to do? At least document it. Don't make at least. The clearly now is many problems. I understand there are problems. If you get an anomaly, it means you are calling the wrong function with the wrong input. No, I disagree.
You know, this is what is done in the code. It's a sort of internal invariant was broken.
There are many assert faults. There are many assert faults. Okay, but okay, let's say plugins and user interfaces, they have bugs sometimes. So, for instance, I don't understand why Kevin, for a non-existing notation, this is an anomaly. This is an example. I mean, maybe if you think this is the policy, then let's document that. Let's document, okay, if you query for, let's document, okay, the expected answer to query, for instance, for a non-existing definition is an anomaly.
No, but again, I think the lack of separation between internal functions and functions that are meant to be used by plugins and so on. Take all your internal functions to all you might the caller of these internal functions might have to take side internally. But if each one is meant to be used by the plugin, then it's one individual.
the value. So probably everyone knows what we should do. Then we decide one of the really and these ones to be protected in the way that they fill up the yeah, no, brace it.
As soon as they detect them.
So now, like you, we're going to talk about one of the holy grails.
Maybe let me check. Yeah. Absolutely. Very, very wet. This is fine. Yeah, no. Present you some. I'm trying to unify the unifiers in Coq. So right now in Coq 8.6 and before, we have two different notions of meta variables in the terms. One which is called evars, associated evar map that tells for every evar which context and type the evar. Sorry. Maybe it's because of full screen. Present to everyone. Is it good? If I do this, if I remove full screen. Sorry for that. You see the slides? This? Okay. Okay, so we have evars which have context and type, and meta variables which have no associated context and are also usually declared in some map, which gives expected types of meta variables. Okay, and we have two unification algorithms. An ML that is used for tactic unification, so apply, distract, most of the tactics. And its two main functions are W unify, which is the unifier, and abstract list all, which allows you to do higher order abstraction using the same unifier, because it's a very important building block for tactics. One is evar4, is evar4.ml. It does your refinement unification. So when you do refine or when you do definition, fixed point, commands to declare new definitions or inductive. And there's a single. The main unification function is evar X, which takes I guess it's for conv or pure conversion. Yeah, because it takes an argument which tells you if it's going to do unification for connectivity or conversion. But maybe there's another reason for X. Okay. Some pros and cons of unification. So the idea was so unification uses meta variables and does a bit of unification with evars. And evarconf only treats the evar case and not meta variables. The unification variables in unification are meta evars. Unification variables in evarconf are just evars. So I guess the idea of using meta variables, which are no associated context, or which actually are supposed to live all in the same context, is to be fast, unification. Make it easy to pre-compile clauses. So we want to register a clause for hint, or auto, for example. You can pre-compile it. So you have this system which has some forwards and then a conclusion, and you say, I'm going to put a meta variable for each of the arguments, and then unifying this hint with a goal will be fast. I don't have to redeclare the meta variables anywhere. I just call unification, by the way. It's been very much developed over the years. We added many flags to particular cases in tactics. So you have options to do delta conversion with some delta reductions, so some unfolding of constants on general open terms, specifically for when you're doing a unification of types. So when you're unifying a meta variable with a term, you must check that the term has a type that is smaller than the type of the meta variable. So you have specific. You can control eta reduction, eta conversion. And also whether you want to use higher order pattern unification on evars, on metas, so on. And it's got a very broad first order approximation heuristic. So the first order approximation is when you have f of u compared to g of v, you compare f and g and u and v. F and g are. And this is pretty strong, and this makes the unifier hard to make type safe. This first order approximation, for example, you have no idea if f and g have the same type. Two type errors, or you have to check before that they indeed have the same type, then it's not sweet. And I patched this unification function over time to make it more type safe, because I was relying on a unifier returning to me always. But it's really hard to do, and it's even harder to do it efficiently. So we found a bug, performance bug in this point stacker. That's really hard to do. And that's a partial extension to evar. So it calls back evarconf in the case it encounters some evar against problems. All tactics, or most tactics, rely on unification of ML. Changing this is breaking easily, even just the standard level. Okay. Looking at evarconf now, so it might be that if we switch everything to evars, then indeed it will get slower. Or checks to do when we instantiate an evar. And creation of evars is evarconf is written in a state machine style, in the kernel. So we improve efficiency. But it also makes the code a bit harder to understand and debug. It has got a stricter first order approximation rule, closer to what we developed with Bitanziliani in Unicode, where you actually have much less typing checks to do during unification. Assuming that you start these terms that are of compatible types, which we do not enforce at all. URConf in the code. That's something that we need to work on. It's got also a clear separation of heuristics in general. So the main algorithm of URConf reversible steps, and there's no choices. And then you have another heuristics that makes choices so that you not generate items. And right now it's parameterized just by one transparent state to tell you what you can. And the nice thing if we move to this is that we have a direct interface to the proof engine, which uses EVARs only, and it's gonna make it backpackable. Plan is to move everything to EVAR. There's been work on this by Pierre already, on having a for EVAR. So CLON is these clauses that you precompile, so they're used for auto, but also when you do an apply, you create a clause. When you do distract, elim, so most of the tactics rely on this interface of CLON to call unification underneath. The switch for the tactics is pretty easy in general. So instead of creating a clause with meta variables, you create a clause with EVARs. And most of the interface can be ported to EVARs. It's a clean control on goals because the CLR basically gives you what remaining goals after applying the lemma. You can update it after unification, so you can know what are the goals remaining after an application, which ones are dependent, and so on. Cool. But a change that is harder to make is to move to a different higher order abstraction procedure, which is called second order matching in Markov, which was implemented by Hugo, and which is actually not called today in Markov, but I'm going to call it now. And second order matching, what does it do? Use of goals of the form, some EVAR applies to some substitution of the EVAR as well. It's convertible to some type. You're trying to find a way to abstract subterms in ties that match, unified with G1 and Gn. And you're going to use that everywhere. Rewrite does that. So we try to solve a goal where P is applied to the left-hand side of the goal. Try to unify this with the goal to find the places where the left-hand side of the goal. Induction, distract, set. And what I chose to do is to actually enrich CLR data structure and maintain the information about the higher order problem, and call directly second order matching when it's what tactic wants to do. And now the threading of the sigma. So usually the CLR actually embedded as an EVAR map, a map of EVARs and meta variables. Is it? So it makes things cleaner. So as I said, the rough idea is to find the occurrences of T1, Tn. I abstract them by variables and instantiate the EVAR by the okay. These occurrences, but you have to choose how to compare subterms. So I made the subterm selection configurable. So you can ask for conversion, exact equality, add patterns, and so on. Most of the time, what you want, at least for induction distract, is to do maximal well-type generalization. So that's something new. It was not in the abstract list old version. I check it here, where instead of just finding the subterms, you actually have subterms. You have to act all subterms that might unify with T1 Tn. You do type checking to force the occurrences of the subterms that are specific value. And then you abstract the remaining ones. Well-type generalization of your. And that works.
So how do you configure this? Can you configure this just before it's going to be used?
Tactic by tactic, you can say, I want that this argument is generalized maximally using this comparison function.
So this is before unification.
Yes, that's a parameter to the call to unification. It's the parameter of the call to unification, to second order.
Do you think you might want to backtrack on the choice of generalization? Similar one, it's there are a class of generalizations and
Yes.
tactic by tactic. You mean tactical by
Right, so one for set, one for elim, one for rewrite.
Yes.
I'm not sure it's. I have 2 minutes.
No, no. You have minus.
I have minus 2 minutes. Okay. So I imported all the standard tags to it without too much effort. It's just a matter of specifying this. How do you select the operations? Approximately a third of the standard library compiled. I worked was about opportunity issues. Present a few. So right now for rewrite, it would be too strong by default because I'm calling terms right now. It's use unification itself. So I call eval convex with a full transparent name, so all definitions can be unfolded. The solution I find to that is to add patterns. So by default, when you rewrite with some lemma, the solution type is T, you find the pattern structure of T. And you filter the occurrences that you might want to extract. Like it's done in the example.
Say like it's done. Is it the same thing?
And look at and of course, if you want to get full conversion, you can still do it by giving patterns at the same like match. And in particular, I needed to do some changes in the standard library when, for example, your goal contains x times 0. And you need to reduce that to actually match the pattern of the lemma.
I'm sorry, but I have only 10 minutes left. 30 minutes.
So I thought you didn't. I can do it later. It's about 8.6.
But you asked for 5 minutes. I gave you 15.
So I planned for 15. One good thing about the changes here is that your current selection in your rewrite does not need to go to set rewrite anymore. I can use the current selection directly with higher rewrite. I can use that these patterns too to avoid blowers because the strategy was exactly this. And I found some unexpected unification bugs in the old version of rewrite, which actually called unification the same way as today. Find first order unification before higher order unification, even if you give it a higher order problem. So sometimes you could find the instance at the end of your goal because looks like instead of finding the first instance of the lemma, which would be on the left, quality, for example. That's a few of those. For almost finished. For this again, they allow occurrence selection, which was partly supported not on a natural basis. So the default is using a maximum function, which seems to work very well. It might be time to fix the uniform order for state positions. That's the main sub-goal. There's some discrepancy. I don't remember exactly between the name, distract, induction. Explicitly say it when you're doing chaining of CNRs. How do you want to order the samples? What's not done yet is this part about distract, which is about to distract calls ahead of the thing that we want to distract. One question is that there is a renaming trick done in this struct that allows that renames the branches of matches depending on the type. Because when you first apply the good struct, you create a match, and then you get as names of the branches what was declared for the top level inductive. But then we do a second pass to say, oh, if the inductive was actually instantiated with some particular parameters, then maybe the inferred names of the constructor variables are different, and the subgoals are. And that's, I mean, it's possible to port the code to do this renaming as well. It's really nice.
Because I have this also.
Yeah.
We need to see the use cases. It was a bit hard to follow. We need to see the use cases.
Yes. It's not mergeable yet, it's not finished. I'm mainly working on compatibility options. One thing I'm worried about is this form of unclosed terms. So you have this ability to say, I'm doing unification, but I'm only doing conversion when the terms are closed, not when they are open. The differences in first order unification between the two algorithms, it's going to be hard to maintain full compatibility with this lag. And I think we should just drop it. And when we don't want to do conversion, whether the term has inverse or not. Another hard one that Kyoto used to distinguish dangling inverse. So you apply an MR, which has some dependent inverse. Unify, and then you find that the solution contains some meta variables to which you assign two new fresh evals. Fail because you have created fresh evals, but actually it succeeds because they are bound to a meta. And now I cannot do the distinction anymore. But also should be.
Why should it succeed?
It's the way it's implemented. It's able to distinguish between these two cases.
Which reason?
I think by accident.
Accident.
There's a few examples I can show you.
No. Designing. We didn't go that deep.
So the overall conclusions right now that I have is that I'm not so optimistic. I think we will need to keep meta in answer and the unification code maintaining full compatibility with the 8.6 tactics. Hopefully we can include that in some attack 8.6 factory and then move the tactics to the new. And that's it. Yeah, question?
Time for question? Okay, a quick one maybe. Yes. Sure. Ah, okay. Wow. Okay, so this is not really a talk. I just wanted to prepare a bit what we're going to do this afternoon. So I try to be short because I have 3 minutes to meeting. The previous days I tried to make, we were careful to identify bugs that we are trying to solve in time for the beta. And the way to see them is to search for milestone that's called 8.6 beta 1. So the status of milestones is a bit unclear. I'm not sure. I think we'll need to revise this, but at least this one is clear now. I haven't done this since yesterday. Last time I checked, there were 65 bugs, or 66. So this is basically what we have to do. This case should be empty by tomorrow night. So it's kind of a joke. But what I mean by emptying the list is taking decisions. Maybe not fixing everything. It would be hard. So I made sure that all the bugs in this list are assigned to someone, and not the hard bugs with this. So there was one.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so the first problem you may see is that, oh yeah, there is. Oh, but this is not for, okay, this is technically, this is, okay. Anyway, there are some names that appear more than others. So that might be, so I guess what I'm trying to do is to see how we can organize. Because the problem is that these names reflect the expertise on the specific bugs. So yeah, I have many, but it's more like small experiments. So there are a few names that don't really appear or very little. Like Guillaume has only one bug in this list. So what I wanted to see how to do is how do we share the work? So it's probably up to people like Guillaume, I think Asia, even Yves, Bruno, yeah, I don't think we have many guys in this list. I mean, I don't know how to organize it. So I have a plan for Guillaume, but maybe he'll disagree. If you look at the bugs that are assigned to it, so Enrico is a kind of overloaded, and many of them are the beginning with Coq Working Group. So at least for those of it. I mean, you have the expertise.
Yeah.
Just what I'm saying. And
But,
also,
I fixed those that I think could be fixed. So
okay.
Enrico wrote for many of them that it required
Rewriting from scratch. Yes.
and I kind of
So I'm fine. I mean, so when I say we should make this list empty, I think it's fine to take a bug, like the one on coming fast, say this needs a complete rewrite, then you put major redesign. And, no, but it will be tagged. I mean, what's bad at the moment is we have many bugs that are in a state that we don't need. So major redesign is not something we should put for bugs that we don't really know how to do. It's when we have a plan for. So for instance, Enrico has a plan for a rewrite of the main file. So then it makes sense. Okay. And so I guess some of these bugs are more serious than others. This is scary. So I would encourage you to have a look at this list and
You have priorities? Why you don't have priorities?
Yeah, well, the priorities are not used. Maybe we should set priorities.
Good season here, there was some blocker of it.
Yeah, it would be red. I mean,
Okay.
it would be different. So maybe the best would be you look at the if you are in Enrico's situation, many bugs, maybe you try to find someone to take some of them. And if you are in the converse situation, like your name appears only once or twice, and then you might want to go into one of these guys. Okay, I probably met you, Enrico, and I have many bugs. Enrico has a. Okay. Sometimes not the number. Okay, so that was the first. Is that okay for you as a way to proceed?
So we need probably to start this afternoon by at least 15 minutes of dispatch.
Just one question for bugs that you have no way to reproduce and stuff like that. What do you do?
Works for me.
Works for me.
It depends.
I mean, I never managed. I mean, you need a Windows machine with 64 gigs of RAM.
Oh,
no, it's not the same.
This is my comment.
Yes, that's. I managed to reproduce and fix one where I needed 16.
But I'm sure you can help writing excessive subscription.
Yes.
He knows.
Now, what do I do to not have it in the list?
Is it here?
Yes.
Mm.
For example. The point is that there is new assigned resolved, and saying irreproducible is not resolving.
No, but I wouldn't close the bug anyway, because especially Michael, I'm sure, can help with reproducing the bug.
It's kind of his job.
So I would leave it open, but indeed I will remove it from the list here. So probably
change the milestone.
In this case, I put as a milestone, I put next PR.
Next PR. Okay.
And please ask, as a command, ask for help from him to reproduce the bug. Exactly. So that was the. I was going to wonder.
As soon as we have no bugs on the
So the only thing we communicated so far, I believe, was that we were planning to release the beta version this month.
Yeah,
which is already good news because it's still this month and we're not so late. But we didn't say more precisely. I think, I mean, for beta 1, it's getting very close. My opinion would be next week. Yeah. And again, I mean, we're not going to solve all this. We need to sort this.
But actually, other bugs that we consider are blocking for beta 1.
So
I don't think I have seen any that.
Yes, universes.
Yeah, there is minimization in the universes. That's very bad. Okay, one thing that might be blocking, but for a different reason, and I wanted to talk about, is you know, these nice warnings that we added to C. So, I mean, I am convinced that we needed to do that the way I did it, but I'm afraid we are halfway. So the warnings are there, the machinery is configurable, it's fine. But two things we never did is one, completely remove the warnings from the standard library. So this one, for instance, this one reveals a problem in the design. I mean, it's just that the dash compat flag should automatically disable the duplicated flag. I'll do that today. But apart from this one, the other ones, so Pierre-Marie fixed many problems for him, but there are still a few remaining. And okay, and there are two things. So one is why does this warning appear here? And then is it really the case that such a scenario is bad? Is the warning legitimate? This is something in the case of notation of original notations, I don't even know. Is this bad? Is the user supposed to fix it?
I think some of them are defined in the notation are not defined in the correct scope, they are defined in the root scope.
Yeah. Well, this warning appears only, I believe it appears only if you verify notation in the same scope.
Yeah, but if they are both in core.
Yeah. But
I think at the very least we can have a look at those files instead of always the last time. We have modified them. We can review the notation legit on the file side. Now, if it's a problem about more general thing like should we accept overriding notation, that's not the question. But at least we can have a look at those files and we'll figure it's legit.
Yeah, but what I'm implying is also the default status of warnings. I had no idea when I did it, so they were all disabled. Okay, so I had to change that. It was clear. So I enabled all of them, but one. But that's probably not the right thing to do.
But the question that Pierre raised makes us think that there are warnings that are example of bad style.
Yeah.
So you want people they should not be doing it.
Yeah.
But when you change the location, you want people that something is changed. It's not necessarily an error.
It's not an error, but it's a warning.
For example, I may be surprised
when I mean error, it's not a sign of bad style that you are putting.
In my opinion, all warnings should indicate things that need to be fixed. By
It's not what I meant. Sometimes you need to warn people that something.
but it's not a warning. It should not be a warning. Like foo is defined, should not be a warning. And notation blah blah is defined, should not be a warning. It's not a warning in the sense of maybe you want a warning user. It's not. It shouldn't be a warning.
We have a third kind of message.
Yeah, no, not it.
Okay, for instance, just a quick one example.
Yeah.
We can discuss on it. Clear donut, the line 23. The fact that the star is was already used. Just about middle of the line.
I don't
Okay.
think I can
This is an include. That's just the fact that for our design purpose, we include this.
What's the line number?
23, it's the include.
Yeah, so
that's just the fact that we are first defined with only the definitions, and then there is this file here that takes again the definitions and adds the proofs. So for me, it's not really a redesign of overriding of notation. It's the same notation that we made.
so you're saying that the warning is emitted regardless of if you're going to the same thing, right?
We need to discuss the status of
Oh, no, because this is a copy, right? So it's not exactly the same
right.
from the kernel point of view.
This story about Coq needs not might need to be it's not very proper the way it is done, but it's a bit larger as a question than just notations.
Because include copies, the notations, the definitions, everything.
Well, the idea is that we really don't want to have all the proofs about habit just put in it. I don't think so. Otherwise, you just put all the abstract layers like numbers in it.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. At the same time, you already want to have plus, nodes, and so on in it. Because the current situation is to have a light pipe. And calculate that with all the function definition. No, not a,
But notations as well.
notation. And one star, something like that. And then the second file, this clear that provides all the rest.
But why do we have a warning when we do include?
That's a question. And that said, here I don't think the code is particularly bogus. I would probably want to keep the include for the moment, even though we could probably do better. And there's other way, look at the notation and is a notation taken again via an include a bad thing?
But it's not easy to fix the emission of the warning.
That's another point.
That's something
That's another thing. First, we need to know what we want, and then we have to know how to have it. You could decide that the module being included does not contain
Can you?
Yeah, you can do that. Just you pack your notation separately from the.
You can, yeah.
Only the definition?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be better.
Okay, since we are here, let me take 2 minutes to tell you what I call a larger problem. The larger problem is, for now, we have a bit of hiding, well, a bit of confusion between those two modules. You have the light, really light one with, let's say, red plus, not plus, now we say red, null, like that. And here we include this module to do proofs as well. But after that, there is a problem. Of course, it's compatible to say Coq init not predecessor, for example, right?
and P and ONAT thread. It's compatible, but it's not exactly the same. And for instance, if you say print thread, from time to time you will see not nat.thread, but you will see init.nat. And that's a bit not bothering, but
it's a bit bothering because you don't see the type, you don't see anything.
yeah. So what I would prefer, since those things are compatible, is just to have only one display. Let's say nat.thread. It's always the same object we manipulate, either in the light module or in the complete module. But the function is the same. So I think it's a good way, it's a good thing that we have this display of modules that say which is the last module, which is the relevant one. But for this situation, I would prefer to let's hide the details to the user and just say this is NAT. But, this is a NAT module. It's also tricky to do. There is a slight problem.
There is another problem with this kind of practice in general that we can also duplicate things. And then the automation tries to apply several times the same, almost the two copies.
Oh, nice. So it becomes exponential.
Yes, and you have
so
functors.
A class is less
and you have functors, and you're manipulating sets, for example.
You cannot use that class.
But convertible?
The names are not the same. We don't check. That's the type of
convertibility.
Convertibility. I mean the module delta.
You think
the mod delta.
Yes, we think so.
Maybe that's the solution.
One example of notation of
Paul is
warning
looking
that
at
is probably not tricky to deal with, but we should deal with.
Yeah. But include raises the more general concern of canonical names versus usernames, and the whole code base. There are many places where it's almost randomly chosen.
I'm not sure we have the right level of detail. Do you want to talk more about this organization?
I think we.
Maybe we can devote, give me a call and then a few minutes for whiteboard this afternoon. And we can probably this organization and maybe modify it.
So to raise a bit the level, I think for some bugs or some features, interesting features, we might have the problem that we need a general discussion because it's not even clear what the fix should be, and so we might want to save a few slots, and maybe we're gonna realize that while we look at bugs. So maybe we should divide the afternoon into have some synchronization point in the middle of the afternoon for those bugs that require discussion.
To go back to the original description, so it seems that the conclusion is that the warning was warranted.
What?
Warranted, the code was correct to warn.
I think so.
Technically, just syntactically, yes, there's a kind of really overriding of the notation. I just call it a non-important problem since it's overriding the notation with an object which is not syntactically the same, but productively the same. It is overriding the star from the initial one, which was Coq init nat plus to Coq arith nat.
Yeah, but
it's the same. It's the same object.
But are notations, printing of notations up to delta of module names?
No, this is my point. Like two convertible terms.
Anyway.
Not the whole system is insensitive
Since
to
they are
that.
displayed the same, it's not the same long name.
Yeah, but for instance,
so
if you look for
a notation, I'm considering them to be different things.
But if
so probably we can shunt the warning when the object is having the same canonical name.
Yes.
But that's to be done. That's not so obvious.
And another problem with these warnings, by the way, and it's not it's an entire family of warning, is that you get these warnings when you do the bad thing, as we just saw. I mean, we can debate if it's bad or not, but it was at that point. But you also see them when you just import something that contains the problem. And so it has an exponential behavior in terms of the number of warnings. And this is a deep issue in just the way the whole thing works. I don't know how to fix this. easily.
You know the name for the same.
Yeah, so you were saying with the first issue? Yes. But this is a completely different problem. So this is just, you have a file that contains a problem that triggers a warning, and you want to emit the warning when you compile that file. But then you're just a user. So you're just a user. So Jason's example is you import 2 files from the standard library, you get the warning. Doesn't make sense because you're not responsible.
But it's not the fact that you import the second file because of what happened in the first one.
Well, the problem,
if you import just one,
yeah, maybe
if you do this too, but if you import just one file, then it should not.
No, you shouldn't get because you are
then it makes sense.
One solution would be to have just a one message reminder saying, okay, this requirement of the library has raised a few warnings. If you want to see them, go require them manually. Just one line instead of having white snow.
But you're right that in fact they're not printed again.
No, it just because
no, because there's incompatibility between the two imports.
That's for the report.
Well, then it seems to be exactly the.
Okay, I'll have a.
It seems to be exactly the bug that we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I think the big picture is that the next item on the schedule is lunch.
Yes.
But I don't know if we have. Yeah, I can say that. But I don't know if we have clear plans.
No. I don't know the area.
There's a grill just in front, and I didn't check the prices.
Grill?
Nearby, already very crowded. Otherwise, there are plenty of restaurants in the
L'italien? Ouais. Là, il y a.
Je sais pas si c'est fermé.
Non. J'éteins, on fera du broadcast cet après-midi ou
Ça va des petits groupes de travail. Après, il y aura je pense qu'on aura plein de synchronisés. Typiquement, là, sur la bibliothèque scolaire, parce que c'est l'Arnaud qui est synchronisé, ouais, est-ce que tu vas faire avant la fin? C'est quel autre jour? D'abord, pour des bureaux ici,
des questions pour toi. Hier, avec Chantal Keller, on a porté SFP Talk vers la 8.5 et regardé pour la 8.6 et tout ça.
Ouais.
Donc, je ne sais pas si tu te rappelles, la j'ai un bug report parce que maintenant, quand tu faisais une déclaration de constante, il fallait que les contraintes d'univers soient calculées avant.
Ouais.
Et
j'avais
donc,
répondu, non?
Voilà, tu lui as répondu de faire typing type off pour obtenir une nouvelle EVAR-map avec les contraintes. Alors, le problème qu'on a, bon, ça marche. Le problème, c'est que typing type off, il met 10 secondes. Alors que la déclaration elle-même, le kernel, il exécute en une fraction de seconde. Et donc, la solution qu'on a trouvée, mais je trouve ça un peu dégueulasse, c'est pour ça que je pose la question, c'est qu'en fait, on crée un terme bidon qui contient les mêmes constantes
polymorphe que celle qu'il y aura dans le vrai terme qu'on donnera au noyau. On fait typing type-off dessus. Ça met suffisamment de contraintes dans le graphe d'univers et ensuite le reste ça passe. Mais quelque part on n'aurait pas dû à faire ça. Et donc, est-ce qu'il n'y a pas un autre moyen que de faire typing type-off pour obtenir des contraintes d'univers? C'est quand même très frustrant.
Tu peux le faire plus localement.
Parce que le terme est bien typé, donc on ne veut surtout pas que le typer pour avoir les contraintes d'univers.
Il ne faut pas tout cliquer à la fin et pas construire morceau.
Tu pourrais garder les. Tu peux spécifiquement ajouter les contraintes aussi. Si tu sais vraiment le terme que tu produis, tu peux aussi le faire.
Ouais, mais c'est un petit peu pénible.
Ça peut être pénible.
C'est déjà avec un environnement plus clair ou pas.
C'est étonnant que typing type.
Ça, c'est pas clair, j'ai pas compris.
C'est un bug ça, c'est un fer de noyau oui,
j'ai pas compris à quel endroit ça.
La seule différence, c'est la différence de l'algo d'unification.
Voilà, c'est ça.
Alors, le terme final,
mais du coup,
le terme final contient des VM-cast. Alors, peut-être que typing type-off ignore les VM-cast, et ça expliquerait pourquoi il est si lent.
Peut-être, regardez.
Mais en tout cas,
oui. Oui.
Ok, bon, bah,
oui, je cumule et il ne regarde pas le. Ah oui, parce que. Donc, il faut en fait, ça c'est un bug. C'est que type-off devrait faire un test. C'est bien si je vois un cast et que j'ai le terme clos.
Non, mais il doit l'ignorer parce que la VM ne génère pas les contraintes d'univers.
Oui, mais là, en l'occurrence, c'est un cast qui apporte aucune contrainte d'univers, donc ça.
Oui, non, c'est pour ça que j'ai dit si tu le fais localement dans les endroits où il faut, déjà, mais sinon, on ne peut pas appeler VM et avoir la même sémantique pour typing type-off, parce qu'il ne va pas faire l'inférence. C'est un peu malheureux, ces cas-là. La compagnie d'histoire, si tu appelles vraiment VM, après, c'est donc pas les paramètres ils ne calculent pas les contraintes.
Oui, non, mais.
Non, il ne faut pas qu'elles n'ont que des égalités. Les contraintes pour être plus
et là, en plus, non, ce qui est pire, mais du coup, c'est peut-être vraiment un bug, c'est que c'était un VM4 sur le terme complet. Alors celui-là, je ne vois vraiment pas comment il pourrait ajouter des contraintes d'univers, donc il devrait juste être ignoré. Ah oui, mais non, mais. Ouais. Ah bah, entre autres, c'est l'une des choses qu'on a enlevé dans le terme bidon, c'est on a enlevé ça et.
Ah, du coup, ça va vite. Alors, c'est exactement ça.
Ah ouais. Alors, il faut qu'appeler type-off sur le terme d'un cast, 5 castes.
Tu sais, non, mais c'est ce que je disais. On crée un terme bidon qui contient que les morceaux qu'on sait qui sont importants pour les contraintes, et c'est celui-là que. Mais c'est un peu frustrant.
Non, mais si j'ai bien compris, tu as un cast et les termes. Tu enlèves les castes.
Oui, mais il y en a aussi à l'intérieur.
Ah, ok.
Mais déjà, quand on enlever celui de l'extérieur, normalement, d'après moi, il n'y a pas d'influence. Il ne faut pas avoir d'influence sur l'univers. Rien que ça suffit à bien améliorer les performances.
Moi, je l'avais juste vu comme.
Dis-moi, monsieur.